Welcome back, and in this lesson we're going to look at sampling breaks and working with sampled rhythmic structures. In this lesson we're just going to go over the basics of how you might approach this. This is the Amen break. If you don't know about this, you should jump on Wikipedia after this, and you may recognize it when I press play. This beat has been sampled and used in everything from bands like Slipknot to NWA to pop to jazz, everything. It's a piece of musical history. What I'm going to do today is drop this into a sampler, and I'm choosing to show you this because Ableton, Logic, Cubase, all the different platforms you might use have something like this, so this should be quite familiar. To start off with, in this classic mode, I can play this sample back with a MIDI keyboard, or right now I'm going to use my computer keyboard. We feel a certain playfulness with this material. The higher we play on the keyboard, the more the sound changes. And I recognize this from drum and bass, and if I go down an octave, we're in hip-hop, trip-hop land. So I'm going to turn this sampler into slicing mode. I can play MIDI notes to trigger each of these slices, these small sections of my beat. So the first thing to do when we're working with breaks in this way is to set this up properly and to make sure we're happy with our options. I'm going to play through my notes. See, this seems a little bit unnecessary to have so much division here. So I'm going to edit that. And the same here. These will do fine. And maybe I quite like this trill. I'm going to move the end of this here, so we don't get this little chop of a drum here. And I'm also going to play with my fade in and fade out options. I'm going to add a bit of fade to the end of these slices so we don't hear clicks. Can you hear that clicking at the end of the sample is gone? This is the original MPC 60 from Akai, and you might recognize this layout from many controllers we have today. We've got 16 pads that are velocity sensitive. We've got a pitch control here. We've got ways of interacting with the database or the hard drive. I do believe this had a floppy disk slot here. And we have options to record and stop and overdub and things like that. This has evolved, and we're still kind of working in this paradigm today. But nonetheless, the reason a lot of music from the 80s and 90s sounds the way it does is because people started to play drum breaks with their hands. So before we go further, I really encourage you to do that. I'm going to create a MIDI clip, and I'm going to start drawing in some notes and show you how we can compose like this. So that sounds pretty bad. Let's speed up the tempo. And I think this one wants to be a bit faster. And we can hear now that we're at a similar place to our original break. Maybe if we want to make this slower, we actually have to transpose it down. So I'm going to transpose it down 5 steps and take the tempo down. Lots of samplers have the option to play by gating, which means when I take my finger off or when the note ends, it will stop the sample. I'll show you how that would sound. This can definitely be somewhere to explore and experiment. Let's rearrange this drum loop. Let's not have the snare here. Let's move that around and let's actually put the snare here. And maybe I actually want the kick to end on the kick here. And I'd like to copy these notes across, but maybe I'll invert them so it doesn't sound the same as this part. Let's listen to that. Cool. Maybe I then want to duplicate the structure I've made and play around a bit. So actually I want a kick there. That sounded a little bit weird, but we can put the snare here on the second beat. So just like that, from playing around with MIDI notes, I have created a new version of this beat. I might then go on and process that. We'll look at that later. But for now, we'll leave it at this and I encourage you to go and give this a go. Thanks a lot.